next tier picks for Vasily in particular, maybe that might open yourself up to a little bit less lane domination from that Vici bottom lane.
Well, we'll see if LGD have anything up their sleeve here for this first game on the blue side here for game one. Vici over on the red. We've got Rek'Sai, still a very strong jungler on 5.6, seeing quite a number of bans. Still Rumble actually banned away from Akon. There's a surprise.
But banning Rek'Sai on blue suggests to me they're not looking to pick it up for TBQ. You can tell that because they banned it, obviously. But again, that's one of those strong skirmish junglers that can kind of balance tankiness, has so many options in the jungle. That's what I like to see TBQ running, because sometimes he gets going, sometimes he doesn't. So having options really seems to help them out as the bans are coming in quick.
Yeah, some target bans still. Actually saw that earlier. PoE was consulting with the coach and analyst saying, yeah, please ban the Janna. That's what they've taken away. He can play it, but I guess wants to take it away from Mata instead. Diana is very surprising, I have to say, but that's clearly a target ban against Godvi, who of course is a Wayless, and I'm sure we'll mix those up during the game.
I actually like the Diana ban. You might think, okay, but Wayless plays everything. He's already set 17 champions. Why is he saying it's a good ban? This is a great champion in a split push situation. What Vici have been setting up is a lot of 1-3-1 splits, a lot of Hetong on a champion like Twisted Fate, splitting confidently. So take away a champion that can really duel an enemy mid laner in a long lane, and Diana's been something that Wayless has shown excellent ability on. So just in terms of a strategic hole that might exist for Vici, might be a situation where the enemy mid laner can easily duel Hetong, ban away one of the strongest duelists in the game in Diana.
Wow, and Hecarim the ban there from LGD up against Carry, you have to think, but Vici ban out the Sejuani over on the red side, so have to think that they value it as a pick. Don't want to give it over to LGD as their first pick, and we haven't actually seen that many Sejuani bans. She's been played a lot today especially, but LGD are going to consider their first pick, and this would be a fine takeaway.
So with the Janna ban and the Thresh first pick, you're actually taking away 23 of Mata's support games out of just over 34, 35 games. That's a very high portion of his champion pool has been Thresh or Janna. One's usually slipped to him. Now both of them taken away. It'll be very interesting to see what Mata moves to. Maybe it's going to be the Nami as perhaps the other disengage option. But the picks come through. Maokai and Dandy's going back to Nidalee.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if you are going to throw a ban at Dandy, maybe this is the champion to look at. His Nidalee is terrifying to behold. So a strong pick there for Vici. Maokai, haven't seen too much from him this weekend. He's actually been a little bit absent, but just as strong as ever.
I guess perhaps it is the fact that you can get away with those higher scaling champions in the top lane. Champions like Vladimir, of all things, have been popular picks this week. You want to go for champions that apply pressure. The mid-game power spikes have been a little bit less relevant as, my goodness, the last second change to Galio.
Yeah, you want to talk about scaling champions. Galio, not too bad. We have seen the Vlad Galio, his own kind of scaling with the runic skin, but we have the Ringo there for TBQ. There's a comfort pick, and I'm not too sure, but I think that's Wayless's champion there for the mid.
So they're showing the Galio. If they had first picked Galio, I might have liked it a bit more just because it could have been the return of support Galio. It's decent in that role. Of course, Chauster was well known for that many moons ago. But now you've already chosen Thresh. You know this is going to be, as far as I can tell, a solo lane Galio. It's a very strange pick. Galio has a very early power spike at level 6. He's very strong. Double scales with magic resist. They've already shown 2 magic damage, now 3 magic damage champions. Okay, if you're going to keep picking AP, Galio feels a little bit better.
Yeah, and interestingly, Vasily going to get away from Graves' Lucian. Don't have it as Imp has insta-locked the Ashe there. The last time we saw Imp insta-lock a champion, by the way, things did not go well for the enemy team.
So there's 124 champions in League of Legends. There was actually a statistic talking about how many of them have seen play recently. I don't think Ashe has, and Ashe has been insta-locked. Kassadin actually sees his return to the LPL as well. I thought the Bard was really biting off too much in their last game out, but LGD, man, they're just throwing out a spinner and choosing whatever comes up.
PUAL looks really pleased with himself. So this is, I assume, something that LGD are planning on doing. Cannon there, of course, the other pick for Vici, which we basically skipped over because Imp decided it was his time to insta-lock the Ashe pick. Still have a couple flex picks here with the Cannon, so Vici will have the option of picking whatever they want for
Do not pick up
Hetong.
the Cassiopeia.
Seems like a mid laner, it will be, but Cassiopeia, against your recommendations, might be the pick here for Vici.
That will be a very, very poor choice, at least
against the Galio.
The way it's
there we go.
There we go. Because Galio, of course, he basically heals up more through his runic bulwark than the Cassiopeia harass can do. It's always been a fairly good lane for Cassiopeia. And again, we don't know whether it's going to be Galio top or Galio mid. This draft went sideways so quickly. You're going to have to forgive me, Patreon. Indulge me as I kind of look over these champions and work out what's going on. Certainly a lot of initiation coming out through from the Ashe pick.
Wait, that Cannon isn't going. I forgot they already have Maokai. Apparently, Mata's decided to play support Cannon. And by the way, Akon, who is now out of time to change his champion, may have tricked them from the Cassiopeia pick. That is top Galio.
Top Galio coming through. Support Cannon actually just played in the LCS today, yesterday. I've lost track of time with how many LPL games there have been recently. But everything's gone way off the deep end. Acorn loved to pioneer these new picks, of course. Brought KO back into the meta last year. Now bringing up the Galio. Maokai, of course, doesn't have that much lane pressure. You're going to be able to build match resist quite happily in that lane. Even in a 1v2, has so high base damage on his Q and E that you can ranged wave clear. Sorry to go on about the Galio pick, just something new. And this Ashe versus Sivir in the AD carry role.
Tell me what you know about Ashe versus Sivir, as we also see Thresh versus Kennen.
I mean, it's going to be a lot about trying to get that spell shield down if they want to register any sort of in-map or sorry, in-lane harass coming through from the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Will we see a return of Season 1 meta, shooting that Ashe arrow off to mid and see what's going to happen? Ashe locked in for Imp. That is something very, very different.
And you know, I don't have this like a statistic right in front of me, but I am 100% sure this is Ashe's first time in the LPL this season.
It is 100% Ashe's first time in the AD carry. It's not a support Ashe. We've got a support Kennen, so keep up, viewers. We've got a lot going on in this draft. Both these teams, I believe, are confirmed for playoffs. So maybe they're just showing us something different. Maybe there's no incentive for them to show you their strongest suit a couple of weeks away from playoffs. Or maybe they know something we don't. It's patch 5.6. Everything's viable, right?
Well, we'll see what exactly is really viable, because they're about to get into this crazy game one. And Workman game, unfortunately, we do have a pause to start off the game here, but can't imagine it's going to last too much longer. As you can see, we have some crazy champions in this particular game, Papa Smithy.
We have some crazy champions indeed. The LGD lineup reads Galio top, Rengar jungle. Okay, that part's all right. The Galio's, it's a bit of a stretch, but it's in the top role. It's against Maokai. That's a decent lane matchup, a decent 1v2 in both situations. Not the best champion to turret dive either, so I can see that working out. Wayless is bringing back the Kassadin in the mid lane. So that's going to be something different. We haven't seen Kassadin on this patch, I believe, just yet in the LPL. In some other regions, people try it in top and mid, but not in the LPL. Still very, very strong in the late game, but a little bit weak and a little bit less reliable, as you have, I believe, 150, maybe 250 less range coming through on your Rift Walk. The AD carry position, it's a strong laner in Thresh and an Ashe.
I mean, yeah, Ashe is interesting.
Really good at level 1.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good at level 1. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Ashe is interesting. 600 range gives you some options as far as harassment goes. I mean, Ashe does one thing well, right? Farm up, use all your utility from all your slows and your ultimate, of course. That's the big one here. Stay at relatively safe range in lane and try not to get dived, because that's how you die.
I mean, getting dived at any point in the game is bad for Ashe. Very gated around her flash, because even the support Kennen, Marta's just going to be trying to get in her face at every opportunity in team fights. Might see some flank wards coming out. The flank from the support, not something you usually see. It's usually the top lane Shyvana. It's usually a top laner in general. A Hecarim coming in with the boots of mobility, but Kennen's definitely going to be looking to lock up the Ashe. Cho'Gath, if he hits a Rupture, probably going to be a dead Ashe. The Flash Twisted Advance one thing they need to do, LGD, is be completely on top of the cooldown of carry's Flash, because again, Flash Twisted Advance onto an immovable AD carry will be very, very potent, even with the Dark Passage being available for PYL. Ashe in general, it's going to be a struggle to get through. I mean, in the late game, 6 items, she's very, very strong because she doesn't have any items. She doesn't have any natural steroids, but with items, of course, with the likes of the Phantom Dancer, the Last Whisper, can be very, very strong and has such a bevy of CC.
Yeah, we'll see. Those are into the game, almost at the first spawn for jungle camps, actually. Seems like Carry and Dandy going to jungle off together. We have had a lane swap, I believe, initiated by LGD, but Vici are already there. So we are going to have the 2v2 lane in the top lane, and it's the doozy. Is Marta actually going to get grabbed up? Imp there. Good harass early on, and you said level 1's good for Ashe. That's exactly why.
And to me, the peak of laning for Ashe is level 1. It gets worse from there, unfortunately, pastry time, but already going to have to chug a few potions. Awkwardly, Imp is the one that's chunked out for the LGD side, and of course has only the 1 potion compared to plenty of potions coming through from Marta. So the sustain will see Kennen back to full health very, very soon, and Imp's just going to have to struggle and play back. Probably not surprising for an Ashe, but has to play back.
You know, we've seen Sivir before, actually, from Vasily in the early weeks. Thresh is, a champion we're also used to seeing. Ashe, okay, a little different, but people probably know how that one works. Please enlighten me on support Kennen.
Support Kennen, the thing is, it's resourceless, which is a very unique thing for support champions. TBQ level 2.
Yeah, really strong level 2 gank, forcing the flash there from her tongue, but good bit of presence of mind there.
It looked like he didn't want to get chunked out. I don't think there was kill pressure coming through from a level 2 Rengar and a level 2 Kassadin. Of course, Kassadin's base is at early levels, not necessarily the highest, but a lot of respect shown as some crowd shots. I think everyone seems a bit bemused by all the off-meta picks coming through.
That's them reacting to support Kennen, and I mean, I guess it makes some sense. Kennen once upon a time saw players as I can't believe, why do we have Galio in
So let's talk about supports in general. What do supports need to do? Usually they have to require some sort of peel, maybe some engage, of course the likes of Leona, much more known for engage, and lane presence. Kennen always has fantastically high lane presence, and the first point I made about him, he's resourceless. So of course he can just spam out that Q. You can max the Q quite happily in this lane. He provides a lot of engaged CC and disengaged CC. Of course, running next to Sivir, has the on the hunt to potentially get into a fight, be disengaged from a fight, can just activate the ultimate like the old AD Kennens used to, just for a bit of disengaged CC if Sivir's dived upon. Kennen's a strong laner, a strong team fighter. Okay, it's going to be very, very squishy. Okay, the damage from the ult's certainly not going to be devastating. But with all the regular CC coming through, why not?
Yeah, Dandy here in the mid lane, they're actually going to get on top of Wayless, who's, again, using his new tag of God V on the Kassadin, but he gets away, just chugs a Crystal and Flask charge, and he'll be just fine.
And just feeling pretty good about adding an 18th new champion to his repertoire this season. Danny goes for the counter jungle, but been found out.
Yeah, God V will actually spot him off there, just take away some of the small camps. Dandy wanting to take the camp away, should be able to get the Raptor, but Wayless is going to fight for it here on the Kassadin, and Dandy committing hard, but he should be able to get it eventually. But Rengar now coming down, but Dandy takes it, smites it away, and pounces out.
It was actually a very smart time to rotate, just because the wave hadn't been pushed up to his turret. And Kassadin's very, very good at last hitting under turret, not so much when it's sitting in the middle of the lane. It forced Cho'Gath to push in, and then Wayless gets much safer farm. So while it looked like a questionable rotate, stepping out of lane so early, he didn't lose anything for it. That's the important factor to consider.
So smart stuff there from God V as he navigates the early lane relatively well. Probably a lot of farming going on there in the mid, but Kassadin and Cho'Gath actually both just kind of happy to scale up.
And the the CS values, not the CC values, going to be very high from both Kennen and Ashe, but the CS values coming through from Ashe in this Sivir lane matchup, of course, has an extra 100 range on auto attack compared to Sivir, so should be able to snipe a lot of free last hits. But you still have to think the lane pressure is going to be completely in the advantage of Sivir, especially at the early levels. Your volley cooldown surprisingly high. It's not till level 9 when it's on, I believe, a 3-second cooldown, or at least it feels like a 3-second cooldown. So before that, you feel like Sivir's going to have all the options in the lane. Does she want to push aggressively to open up time for Danny to counter jungle that we've already seen on the red side? Does she want to hold the lane back and cause Ashe a no-escape AD carry to overextend? Sivir and Kennen have all the options in this lane in the top, and it'll be interesting to see what Vici want to make of them.
Yeah, and you can just see all that pressure from the Kennen, I think, leading to a lot of what's happening there in that 2v2. Dandy actually will join in now as well. A little too far back for a gank here, but might even look for a tower dive. That's his only real option. Instead, we'll back off towards the rest of his jungle, and Imp and POL, if they can hold the lane here, they're in a very happy spot.
Yeah, look, exactly. This is a very safe place for LGD to fight. They need to keep trimming the minion wave so it doesn't hit turret. POL, of course, will tank up a little bit of aggro, actually quite a lot of aggro.
Yeah, Flay used in there, but now Mata going to come in. Vasily coming through. Actually, that Q doesn't work. Flashes away, but still dies to Mata's Ignite, and first blood goes to support Kennen.
I believe POL was minion blocked in that exchange. Looked like he was stunned, but of course no CC available. There was, of course, a 1-second CC coming through from Kennen, but he was minion blocked and just too aggressive. Oh, and now Dandy fighting.
Yeah, TBQ going to find Dandy, though, fighting back reasonably well. Lots of bushes for him to hop around to. Needs to snare back. Now is enough fury. Imp goes in, and TBQ gets that kill, but Mata leading in onto Imp. Another great stun moving through. Snare, not enough carries there, and he'll get that kill.
And there's the consistent CC from Kennen. Uses it again, of course. I forgot that the Kennen CC came through in the original kill. Still think PYL could have gotten. They're going for TBQ.
Yeah, TBQ very low. Mata diving aggressively forward. A Tong moving through as well, but PYL respawn time is low, able to dark passage him out to safety. Now Acorn has teleported down as well. He's level 6, flashing in there. 3-man idol of Duran. PYL dives in there as well. Mata gets chunked up massively. Carry will trade in there as he gets TBQ, but now Carry getting chased out as well. That's 2 kills back there for LGD. Carry will make it through. Vasily just going to get out as Acorn, I think, picked up a double there.
Yeah, Acorn's making the Galio look good. The hook goes wide.
Oh, good play there. Now Vasily going to flash away, but Tornado... No, that's not a Tornado. That's a Galio Righteous Gust there as Dandy going to try and find Godby. Flash forward. Beautiful riff walk back to safety, and PYL gets that kill.
Such a crazy long skirmish. Wayless actually just hit level 6 during that fight and had the riffle up to dodge lethal damage. Acorn has a lazy 2-0-3. I lost track of the other lanes. Was surprised when the Idol Drown was available. It was a 3-man Galio ultimate, which did massive work. And all that brawling, I mean, Wayless is the big winner. 1-0-3 on Kassadin. When these Kassadins get going, you just know that late game Kassadin you know and fear gets so much earlier in the game.
Yeah, and they often go fairly greedy scaling builds. We'll probably see Rod of Ages definitely there from Godview. As you can see, we've got the Blasting One and the Catalyst already in that inventory. Wouldn't be too surprised to see a tier result. Super greedy, but that mana is just such a good stat for Kassadin.
I don't think you're in a position to be surprised about item builds pastry time when we have Ashe, Galio, support Kennen in the game. We're going to see this replay. Look at this Idol of Durant.
Oh,
it's only a 3-man. As Vasily gets out of it with the spell shield. Excellent spell shield timing. Hatong dies instantly on the Chanky Cho'Gath. The fight goes on. They have a lot of CC, and Acorn is actually regenning a lot of mana because he already had the Chalice picked up at this point. A lot of direct and indirect buffs coming to Acorn. Just hits him in the face for the last auto. That very satisfying auto attack. I thought POL would give up. It still had... It was able to go in on Vasily. They get the kill. As you can see on the inside, there's more action happening. And another kill comes down. Kassadin and Rengar, they get it done in mid.
Yeah, nice team up there. TBQ's first ultimate actually netting him a kill as Acorn has swapped back to the top lane, but Vasily and Mata are waiting. Mata is level 6 as well, so Acorn has to be very careful, and he's going to walk away. Not going to walk in towards the Russian face jacket.
It's purely magic damage coming through from the cannon. Of course, will be negated by the kick coming through. I'm going to have to look over and see what the second max is. Will it be the Runic Bulwark W max? Will it be the Righteous Gust max? As Rengar finds Dandy.
Good snare there coming in.
Wow.
TBQ gets a solo kill there in the jungle, and TBQ's massively far ahead in experience as Acorn getting chased down, but going back in there, you can see maxing that Q first for the wave clear and slow that resolute smite, but Dandy's really far behind.
Did you see how much that burst damage the Q did with only a Ruby Crystal in the inventory? Actually did surprising damage. Maybe Dandy just doesn't have a lot of resist. The fighting continues in mid, but the lane control is getting closer and closer to the advantage of Wayless, and he probably has gold at this point to get an early Rod of Ages. 9-minute 45 on reworked Kassadin.
Yeah, any sub 10-minute Rod of Ages is incredibly fast, and Kassadin's gone back. We'll see if he does have enough gold for it. You have to think so, and there it is. Just under 10 minutes and the roll is already done, but Acorn is in trouble now. Mata's used the ulti. Acorn has to get away. That shield keeping him so healthy for quite a while, and he'll just walk away. It may be a couple more autos. Vasily no flash, so can't chase back in. Little dangerous for the dive. Boomerang Blade hits, but the Bulwark's back up, and Acorn shrugs it off.
Yeah, the Bulwark, of course, gives both armor and magic. Just gives a bit of damage. You want to pop it before a fight. Only one level. Will be maxing the Righteous Gust second. It actually has scaling cooldown reduction, I believe, just on patch 5.6. They get the hook on carry.
Great hook there, but carry, very cute. Twisted Advances out of it to a minion imp. Didn't have his ult. He actually used it already somewhere, maybe to get the kill on mid.
It was actually exciting to see the mastery of champions like Maokai, who's seen so much come through. We, of course, remember a game where Cool pulled it on Twisted Fate, and the Twisted Advance was to dodge a gold card in the, 0.1 of a second, 0.5 of a second of untargetability. I believe he was untargetable for a bit of damage during that exchange as well. It's interesting seeing these champions being mastered, like I said, as we watch Acorn. Definitely not mastery of Galio yet, but he's going to be very close to what is a buffed Athene's Unholy Grail.
Yeah, he might get there, but he actually used the ulti. Almost got a solo kill on Vasily there without Mata there to help peel him off. So shenanigans abound here in this first game, and our last game, in fact, of Week 10. Fitting way to end our adventures on 5.6 this week. Oh, arrow coming through. Does hit onto Hatong, but he'll be safe under his turret.
Season 1 meta has returned, pastry time. As you see, the global arrows coming through for a bit of harass in the mid lane. The buys come through. And again, finally we've seen what the tonic is to Vici's all-encompassing strangle style. Just pick random stuff and put it together, and it seems to work pretty good.
Well, right now, LGD actually off to quite a strong lead. 2,000 gold already. Have a tower down in bottom, actually. Ashe doing work there in the early stages. Both have BF Sword Pickaxe, so not too far as far as item timers go. Ashe slightly behind in CS, but TBQ going to come in for a gank mid. Hatong going to land the hook. Beautifully used there by PYL. Mata gets flayed back into it. Bowler just missing there for TBQ. Lantern, though, will keep him safe. Godvie should be able to riff walk away, but going to turn it on to Mata, try and find a kill. Goes in aggressive. Dandy has hunted him down and will get the kill as it leads out over onto Vasily. So a very wonky exchange, but a trade there in the mid lane.
Yeah, 1-for-1 trade. It was a sniper death sentence coming through from PYL to confirm the kill on Cho'Gath. For once, his large model size actually working against him as he was hooked there. TBQ still looking aggressive. You have to always remember when Mata comes through, it's not going to blow the team away with damage, just a CC ultimate, buying time for Vasily to rotate.
And you know what? TBQ's Rengar, we've seen it quite a number of games in the LPL this, but it's one of his most played champions. And again, he's been sort of the inconsistent factor for LGD, but his Rengar, when it's good, it looks really good. And this is a good-looking game as Mata going to get dove on now. The bowler coming through. Imp trying to follow in, but Dandy there as well. It's actually going to land over, but they're going to be Hatong and Vasily. Rupture goes in. PYL will fall to Siva. And a very nice Rupture from Hatong.
Yeah, just really nice Rupture coming through. Hatong was one of the first Shoguns to really impress us. I believe 2-0 on that champion so far in the LPL. Picked it up again after Ninja had gone and shown it off a few weeks previous. And always goes for the CDR build. Sometimes he goes straight into the CDR boots for a super quick 40% CDR, but a lot of mids, I believe Faker was one of the few to debut this, have been running the scaling blue cooldown reduction. Gives you 15% CDR at level 18. Of course, gives you 10%, I guess, around level 12 or so, level 11. You just combine that with blue buff for a very early 40%. From one item, from one 20% CDR item.
Yeah, and again, with how we've seen Hatong especially build the Cho'Gath, wouldn't be too surprised to see that coming out. Infinity Edge is done for Vasily, so major item completed there. As Imp, you have to think, is looking for a bit of extra gold to get him over the hump there. Looking over to Dandy, though, in the jungle, and it's not the Trailblazer or even the Chilling Smite that we've seen from him before. It is the Maker's Enchantment and the Tear, but he's got a Skirmisher's Saber.
I guess my big question, one thing that we've been impressed by Veach is they're able to adjust their builds for the situation. I don't think this is what Dandy would have gotten to if he had a Snowball Nidalee performance, but it almost feels like he's transitioned from an AP build to, again, more of an Iceborne Gauntlet tanky build. That's the only thing I can take away, because once you go for the Cinderhulk, it doesn't feel like you're ever going to be able to recreate the 20% CDR and importantly 80 AP coming through from the Magus.
I think he still has the Mega, so I don't think that's the Cinderhulk. He just has a Saber instead. We'll have to check when we see him next.
Yeah, sometimes I get trolled. Blue, green, it looks very similar on our small monitors. But we'll watch away again. Very behind with the tier. We'll still stack that up. Doesn't matter if the timing's at 14 minutes. LGD, they waited around mid for it sounds like 40 seconds as a 4-man unit, but they still should be able to rush down the dragon.
Yeah, Mata comes in, good vision, but has to dodge the hook out from PYL. Mata wants to go in. Imp actually ultis him in the face. Play back in there as well. Mata's already used his ulti. TBQ under a lot of pressure though as he gets feasted on, but Akon in the backline picks up Mata. Used the ulti already to lay them off. Now Hatong moving back in. Righteous Gory pop for Carry. Imp trying to kite as best again. Dandy will get picked out there by the Ash and almost go down, but Carry picked up TBQ. Imp going too aggressive though, doesn't get the kill. Dandy will leave a double kill for Maokai, and we're still fighting Acorn going deep there on the Galio, but Maokai gets a triple kill.
You can see how awkward it is to fight with LGD after Idol of Durand is down in particular. They have 4 melee champions and a no escape AD carry as the assassination is on.
Yeah, Godv explodes. Poor Cho'Gath there as Carry. Gonna try and fight him. Not a lot of mana left. Has to flash a spear from Dandy, but very nice reactions.
Yeah, until they get a big enough Cassandra who can dive in, maybe have the stasis from Zhonya's, or just get the Arcane just for very early innate tankiness, it's very hard for them to fight because only Ashe has range damage, and they're just fighting and what is very high base damage is from the likes of even the support cannon, the Cho'Gath, who has very high base on his spells. It's an excellent Ashe arrow that basically buys Imp time to freely auto attack. So in the front of the fight, Wayless is eventually Godv in this game, of course, going to dive in. They get Mata in the backline, so it's a flanking ultimate and teleport coming through from Acorn. But this is the awkward factor. So Acorn, once the Bulwark is down, isn't that tanky. Godv's fighting in the front of the fight, all on his lonesome. Already Rengar was low, eventually re-engaged on the fight. Imp just goes crazy trying to get the exit kill on Dandy. The fights are awkward. I feel like these fights may get a bit better for LGD going forward, but they're going to be very relevant and very gated by the Ashe Flash, which, after all that, is still up.
Yeah, and the gold actually going back in the favor of Vici now. So LGD, we're off to a nice league with the early plays, but that team fight brings Vici all the way back. It's equal in turrets now, about 600 gold up, so not a massive lead. And the big factor still is that Cassidy in the mid lane scaling very aggressively as the arrow will fly out, though doesn't quite hit Hatong, though he'll dodge it that time.
It feels like you need to get aggressive wards down, even if you're Dandy and Mata, just to pop wards around the coves or the obvious places where you might see an Ashe arrow, just to make those ultimates more predictable. It's a crazy thing. Usually we're talking about Vi, but the fight's back on.
TBQ's here as well, but there are 4 members of Vici in the top lane, and Akon will be hung out to dry there by TBQ. It's like, yeah, I'm not coming in to help you there.
I mean, the turret taking by Vici around 15 minutes, they almost always have those 3 outer turrets. It's been delayed this game, but you can see from that collapse that this is going to be a very strong push in the top lane. Only the mid lane turret will still in terms of outer turrets will be alive. It's going to be a second turret for Vici, and they're finally starting to grow that gold lead.
And you're right, by the way, it's Cinderhawk for both junglers. This is the blue buff. Might be contested here. Tong will rupture it away. Dandy coming in, but yeah, definitely going something different here. Dandy does have the Cinder, I believe, and we saw TBQ before. He has it also. Oh, maybe not on Dandy.
Again, we're trying to pay attention. Doesn't look like it's the Cinderhawk pastry time. Let's wait till he starts to assault a camp. I've already made the one mistake. We'll leave it at that.
I can tell you for sure Rengar absolutely has it. So going for a more tanky build is TBQ.
I mean, the tanky build Rengar, it's something that we've been seeing a bit more. It kind of failed to deceive. We saw a top lane smite Cinderhawk. That was probably a bridge too far. If you're going to get that lane farm, probably just go for a bit of damage early, then transition into tank. It's going to be about the CC. It's relying a lot on the Ashe damage. Usually I don't mind this. If it was, say, a Lucian AD carry, I don't mind tanky Rengar because, again, it's about getting your bowler strikes up, your empower bowler strikes in particular off cooldown rotations with stacking cooldown reduction and being a tanky frontline fighter. In this situation, when you have an Ashe, it usually goes either really well or really bad, again, based on whether Flash is available.
We'll have to see. A lot of the damage is heavy magic here, so Vici, maybe you're going to look at an Aegis. Can't quite see the components yet in inventories, but we'll see. Maybe Marta will look to pick that up. Ashe does have her Infinity Edge. Now actually a very strong power spike due to a passive focus, but again, just going to move in, take the farm, and we'll reset. Next dragon up in a couple minutes, and it's been a crazy first 20 minutes, Papa Smithy.
LGD have the first dragon. They're 11-9 up in kills, and they're only behind one dragon. For reference, in previous games, especially that series against King, we were talking about perfect games in both of the matches in that series. Certainly not a perfect game. LGD, through all the carnage of both their picks and all the early skirmishes, 20 kills in 19 minutes, have been able to look very, very competitive. But as the dust settles, they have to make these picks work in a late game team fight, and for that I still remain to be convinced.
And for me, it's interesting that Vasili's gone to a different AD carry. I mean, Imp went way off the deep end. He insta-locked that Ashe. He's like, I'm playing this, you can't stop me. I feel like Imp has got some sort of hole in his contract where it's like, I get to do what I want for a game that I choose, and maybe it's this one for this time. But Vasili had a reasonably successful career on Sivir in the early weeks, but haven't seen much of it recently. It's weird to have so many Graves Lucian games and go to Sivir this game.
I mean, especially when Graves is available. Graves deals so well with what Ashe is doing in particular. Eventually just quick draws up to her and buckshots her in the face and kills her. It's a very strong lane for Graves. Of course, if the early snowball, if he's ganked early, can always fall behind. But in terms of laning matchup, it's very strong. You can even take cleanse to guarantee the lane victory. In this situation, goes for Sivir for rotational play, you'd have to assume, to help get the tanky Maokai and Cho'Gath into the battle. It seems like he's picked for teamfight. He's even picked for his support in some ways, as with the Lightning Rush and the On the Hunt, should even be able to launch the support Kennen into the backline.
Yeah, unfortunately, it would have been sweet to see Kalista Kennen support, but not going to be that this time. Instead, just the Sivir ulti as Akon. Building up actually fairly well. Athene's is done. We've got a Glacial Shroud plus the makings of an Abyssal Scepter, so going there, again, hybrid AP tanky, kind of like a jungle fiddle build, I guess.
I mean, Abyssal Scepter obviously builds so well, double scales in terms of AP on the magic resist, and the aura will be very helpful for Wayless when he gets into fights. Already has the Archangels built up. Not sure how many stacks away he is from the Ceres transform, but get 8 stack per spell usage. So again, stacks it up pretty fast in this situation. TBQ's ulted.
Yeah, gonna look for someone. Finds Vasili, but Vasili knows he's in the rear. Arrow does go up, but a good spell shield follows in. Does get the bowler, but TBQ has to get out. Gets feasted, and Vasili able to take him out. Cassidy running away as Carry popping all the way in with a righteous gory. PYL in a whole host of trouble. Lives for a little while longer, but Vasili claims a double.
And Imp just doesn't have the steroids from Ashe's kid. All the 3 big AD carry items complete to do anywhere near teamfight relevant damage on either Carry or Hitong. You see it feels like a bit of a genius Sivir pick, because until maybe 35-40 minutes into the game, Ashe is just not a tank buster.
Yeah, you can see first dragon now going to go over to Vici. They get their first of the game, so strong looking stuff there. Godview will clear some stuff out. Still looking very strong on the Cassidy with the Seraphs. On the way, you have to think, probably most of the way stacked up at this point. Wayless there on the Cassidy, of course, using the tag Godview for this game. Certainly powering up as far as his build goes. He will be very strong, but can LGD get to that point safe? Because Vici have started assaulting the gold a little bit more. 2,500 gold or so up now.
And that's a great time to discuss the fact that the power spikes coming through from LGD in many of their lanes are significantly late. Definitely Cho'Gath is teamfight ready with, closing in on 35% CDR, and just his base values. Has an Abyssal Scepter, another early game purchase. It's going to take a lot more time for Cassidy to scale up. Galio does definitely spike early, just like Maokai. Is strongest before QSSs are complete. Is strongest when he's able to fight before magic resist is completed on any of the enemy team. Ashe, though, definitely spikes very late in the game. Has that gimmicky level 1. Is strong at level 6 against most champions. Not so much against Sivir. and then again needs the attack speed item in particular to start doing damage, because there's no steroids in her kit whatsoever. Definitely focused around CC in the kit and steroids from items.
Yeah, no Nunu to help out, maybe get some extra attack speed going on, just whatever she's got right now. And like you mentioned, not that impressive, unfortunately, to get big late game items, but Vici continuing to rotate around the map. Imp going to safely get some farm with the help of POL, takes the Lantern out to safety. Imp is getting farm. I mean, the carries in general for LGD not looking too bad, but with no major objectives yet to take, Vici just taking away their first dragon, things have slowed down considerably.
But you can tell that all the curveballs that have been sent by this champion select from LGD have unsettled the Vici lineup. You can tell from the kill score. You can tell from the fact that despite they have multiple later scalings, as Dandy, I believe, doesn't steal away the blue. But despite the fact they've opted into late game scaling advantage, Vici haven't been able to punish them to the degree they've done to King, that they did to Snake, that they did to Gumty. This is definitely an anomaly from what has been an amazing run of form from Vici.
And Vasily actually just popped his ultimate, so Vici were looking for a pick but couldn't find one. You can see Carry, again, a good initiator, like the Righteous Glory pickups in. Most, if not all, Maokai's at this stage definitely get away from that Rod of Ages build and just go straight tank now. Abyssal Scepter is done for Galio, so a bit of a power spike there for Akon, and a Fiendish Codex there in Godby's inventory, looking for something else now. Now he's got his 2 major items already done.
I mean, Nomicon makes a lot of sense. That's usually the third big AP item. Sometimes it's after the Rod, sometimes it's after the Zonya, sometimes they rush it. In this situation, it's probably going to be just opting towards 40% CDR. It's gone from a situation where some champions, their first protocol was 40% CDR, to where basically every champion, every mage opts into that situation, just to give those multiple burst rotations and fights. And to be honest, with these high health values, with all the healing coming through from Vici, with the likes of Nidalee, it's not a bad purchase to go for that healing reduction from the Grievous Wounds passive on that Merlinomicon.
No, not at all. And again, Vici still looking around, but Cassidy maybe starting to split push a bit now as well. Level 13, so has the max Q and the E. Very strong wave push right now, and of course, pretty slippery there with his ultimate being available. So we often see mid laners start to split push. Cassidy, not a bad candidate.
Absolutely. 4 seconds, I believe, is the Rift Walk at level 11. Then it goes to the 2 seconds that everyone kind of put their fine magnifying glass on and said, oh my goodness gracious, there's going to be a lot of Cassidy coming through. Haven't seen much in the elbow. This is his debut performance, but you can see the power of the zoning rupture, and that's a structure coming down. Importantly, the third outer turret for Vici Gaming.
And you can see here Tong, that cooldown build working wonders for him in this stage of the game. And this is what we've seen from a Tong Strogoth in particular. You know, rotate around, just help win sieges, help zone people out, because if you ever get hit by one Cho'Gath CC, you're usually getting hit by the rest.
Absolutely, it definitely doesn't stop in that situation. 5.4 second cooldown is the rupture at highest level. Of course, has a slow after the knock-up effect, so theoretically it can be chained and chained once you move towards 40% CDR. They go back to keeping their waves. Wave control's been another central point of a Vici Gaming comp. LGD, to some degree, with the likes of Ashe and Cassin, are trying to delay out this game, so they're going to be fairly happy with the fact that none of their inner ring of turrets, that there is no dragon advantage for Vici. There's no win conditions that have been established for Vici Gaming at 25 minutes, when previously their games have been over at this time.
Yeah, and Vici, again, have had blisteringly fast games in recent weeks, but this is a very slow-burning game right now. Minute 35 to the next dragon. That's our next big point of pressure you have to think as these teams look. But Imp, he's just giving POL, letting him babysit him, going into the waves, farming it up, and then immediately leaving via the Lantern, farming incredibly safely for a carry that, as you've even seen in last team fights this game, is often rather aggressive.
And the fact that an Ashe has been able to out-farm and have the highest amount of CS in a game against Vici Gaming, who's been running Twisted Fate, who's been out-rotating opponents, and stuff like that, is considered as there's the on the hunt.
Yeah, Marta flashing in there. Vasily helping him get into the mix as PYL will look to go down. The shield will protect him. Flay coming through as well. The ultimate there from TBQ just for some vision, but Vasily gets another kill, and this seems very common in Vici games, but Vasily has quietly crept up to quite the score.
And aggressive on the hunt use is what I was expecting earlier, just to get picks while this LGD team hangs back, just wants to farm up. The pings come onto Baron, but no, Vici back away from it. They need to start bunkering up, they need to start sieging this LGD lineup and ensure there's no more free time for Ashe and Cassidy to farm up for the late game.
And I mentioned Vasily's score, 5-1-7, very impressive. Strong CS there is all sitting at 230 currently. Not too sure what's going on with the item builder now. Apparently just wants a lot of flat AD because he has both a BF sword and a pickaxe. That would normally scream Infinity Edge, but he has one of those, so probably not that. But that is a lot of upfront damage, and these waves especially will melt to the ricochet.
I mean, the thing about the flat damage, you know that's eventually going to be a Bloodthirster and a Last Whisper in most situations. More flat AD just means between the ricochet and the bouncing blade, you're instant clearing waves. You're instant pushing in a lot of minion waves, and again, control of minion waves has been one of their strengths, so clearly that's what they're valuing at this point, is as much flat AD for both poke and wave clear as possible on this Sivir.
Dandy bouncing forward. They're going to try and find for a blue up, but none forthcoming. Imp actually getting aggressive on the tower, sieging reasonably well. Again, Ashe, one of the odder carries, I suppose, as far as natural range goes. 600 her range, so quite a bit longer than any others. And Siege is not too bad. PWR can help her get out, but LGD is struggling to get this tower. They find carry, but that is not the hook target they want.
I mean, the siege from Ashe is good in terms of turret damage and from range, but everyone else on this team is melee apart from Thresh. So in general, it's going to be one of those situations where we try and get cute and try and position everyone aggressively and just rely on Ashe for turret damage. There's no escape AD carry, a risky proposition.
Yeah, Dragon is back up as well as Imp continues to aggressively farm waves. LGD probably want this turret first just for a bit of extra vision control for getting on top of that Dragon, but they're about to contest for the second here between these two. And again, both teams have won. This next Dragon will be a lot to determine momentum. There's no snowball currently happening right now, but a team could start it by picking up their next.
And Vici just want to keep this fight and either want to initiate a one-team fight or buy time, because look at these side minion waves. Massive red minion waves in both top and bottom. This is what they've prepared earlier with their flat AD and just excellent side minion control. Things will only get better for Vici the longer they drag out this engage.
Wonderful flank looking there for TBQ, but LGD do not pull the trigger, just clearing out some vision for themselves. Acorn also quite tanky, could initiate, but there's the ulti again coming through for Vasily. Acorn in trouble actually as the Tong able to take him out. Imp throws in an arrow just for fun, but nothing happening there. And now 5v4, Vici will take the Dragon.
Yeah, the rest of LGD seem to have given up on the Dragon. It's scattered in different directions, so Acorn just overstayed in that situation and was caught out. You're always going to get caught out by rotations when we're talking about the on the hunt, and even the lightning rush coming through from Mata have to respect the initiation CC coming out of the Mark of the Storm. They had to move away and contest these side wave minions, so LGD, they at least managed to do that, but that's opened up time for Vici to try and just power down this mid turret. That's a lot of turret damage from Sivir.
Yeah, PWL and TBQ probably not enough to defend. That tier 2 turret will fall carry. Gonna get locked up. PWL uses the box actually, but Mata just uses his ulti. TBQ getting locked up for far too long. Can't take the lantern that PWL tried to leave for him. Carry gonna get flayed back. Imp doing decent damage, but no last whisper done yet. Carry again very tanky with now twisted events on Dandy. Finds a spear on top, and Vasily cleans out an easy kill for himself as Godv diving into the back onto Vasily. Wants it but can't get it. PYL locked up Vasily, but he's still alive. Actually going to go down to the Thresh as Acorn has made his way in the back. Still has his ulti, but won't live to use it as the ace is completed by Vici Gaming.
That's an ace from a fight that was initiated by LGD after they'd already lost a structure. Very curious time to start to go for a fight. You could see from how Imp was auto-attacking the Ashe with a lack of steroid. She does very, very low damage with just the Infinity Edge and the Static Shift. Now has the Last Whisper completed. Did not have it before. No tank busting coming through from her abilities just means that, again, she was caught out by carry during that fight. And now LGD, they have a mountain to come back for us. Out of nowhere, Vici have a 6,000 gold lead.
And you know what? I did kind of mention Vasily Sivir and saying we haven't seen it in a while. It's kind of a weird pick to me, but with the way they've been playing, you know what? We have a replay.
So look at this fight. It's initiated when the turret's already very, very low. Vasily backstory is actually low health, but the re-engage comes through from Mata, and you're just going to be able to see the difference in AD carry damage. When Vasily does enter the fight, he is doing huge damage. Imp starts auto-attacking carry, and let me tell you, he is tickling carry in the front line. That's why they choose to re-engage. The spear comes through crucially. The flash crit for about 600 damage comes through from Vasily, who already had a huge amount of AD built up. Will get another kill on the front line. It's actually a clean ace coming through. No, Vasily does fall. Acorn dies. A 4-for-1 in general. They break the base. Everything goes right for BG
and
Game.
That big tanky Galio can't really shake off the true damage there of Feast to Tong, using the ultimate very nice here to clean out the Galio, and has got a Zhonya's Hourglass for himself along with Dandy, who's gotten quite tanky. Mata will eat the arrow there from Ashe, and Imp will just poke him in. Acorn flash ulti onto 2 there as he moves in, but had Tong. Zhonya's there. Mata going to dive straight into the back and Ashe in a whole host of trouble as Carry dives on top. Imp actually gets the kill, but does not live for long enough as Acorn and Godv running away there. The Sapling almost getting the kill onto Cassidy, and Acorn getting some kills, but Vasily aggressively flashes for a couple more, and Vici lose a 2-for-2 trade actually, all even.
And an even trade definitely suits the LGD comp that's still scaling into the late game. Finally, Wayless is looking scary. Actually opted into the Athenes rather than the Murilanomicon. Probably a Death Cap or a Void Staff away from doing relevant damage. Has gone for the CDR, but so definitely has 40% CDR. That Rift Orb is going to be on a hilariously short cooldown in general. But Vici back away, they have to clear their waves. Some time is bought from an LGD comp that desperately needs to get more and more items, specifically onto their Ashe. This Bloodthirster could start to turn fights.
Yeah, they need time, absolutely. Still scaling on the Cassidy, scaling on the Ashe. Even Acorn here has got now a Seeker's Arm Guard, possibly looking to mix a Zhonya's into the build there as well. They've got decent damage deals. They all scale relatively well. Cassidy especially, and I think Ashe probably second in there. We'll see if they can get it done, because Vici, once they start assaulting you, they never tend to let up their pressure.
The amount of money spent on mana regen by Godv, or Wayless, of course, as we know him better, is actually quite smart on this patch, because at 40% CDR, with the Athenes now giving 30% refresh on assists or kills in terms of max mana, and just a huge mana pool and mana regen in general from those items, Godv is going to be able to channel that Riftwalk multiple times, use it for damage. If he's not focused in a fight, you will see execution damage coming out of that mana ratio Riftwalk.
Yeah, and I mean, if they can find the perfect fight, LGD will look great, but it's so hard with the amount of CC that Vici currently have, and again, they're not letting up the pressure. And to go back to where he was before all the action started a few minutes ago, again, Vasily Siva, haven't seen it in a while, but with the way Vici have been playing all the rotation-based play, Siva does fit into that style perfectly.
It's almost a surrogate Twisted Fate in a lot of ways, and honestly, as the LPL's developed, those champions are very similar. Twisted Fate's never been about lane. Siva no longer is about lane. It's not the first pick Siva and saying, hey, what you got? I'm going to win lane. No, you have to avoid tricky lane matchups like the likes of Jinx and Draven. Siva now is more about comps, and when you're going to pick two melee champions and a cannon, that's when the go button is for Siva, and they've done fine in lane. In fact, they were against, arguably, well, against definitely a weaker laner than Ashe, so it went better than expected for the Siva. And the power of the rotations, you can see every time the On the Hunt comes through, they're picking up kills.
Yeah, and Vici going to scope out the Baron, but not going to go in for it just yet. Ashe will fire out the Hawk shot there for a bit of vision. One of, again, a very weird old AD carry, but lots of utility into this kit. Very much an old school champion.
Would you like a statistic here, Page Time?
Yes.
Vasily has 100% kill participation on the AD carry.
I mean, that's a great stat, and like you said, it's kind of like the surrogate Twisted Fate. It makes sense that they're moving around together. Vasily's getting those people in.
It's a crazy stat, though, because what that tells you is that Dandy necessarily hasn't been that involved this game. On the Nidalee, he's had a decent performance. 3, 4, and 11, though, was counter-jungled significantly. It's only when the grouping phase started against a team with Cassidy and Ashe that the kills started rolling in. It was only the AD carry lane that was winning. So this is definitely the worst team performance we've seen from Vici in the early game by leaps and bounds in recent weeks. And it's only Vasily that's actually propelling them over the lines, because it's only when they're grouped that they're getting the value of the ult and actually getting the fights and skirmishes that they've been looking for.
And thankfully for Vici, that rotation style is still carried through to what was a weaker early game. So the mid games look great, though, and now the ulti going to get popped again. Marta going massively far forward in. There goes all the way on top of Acorn. Acorn going to use his ulti. Gets popped immediately, though, by the silence, and TBQ forced to get away. Godv has to rift walk out as Orba gets locked up for days. Double rupture landing in there for her tongue. TBQ has to flash away as Marta has found POL. Thresh will pop the box, but TBQ running away. Jukes the rupture, they're moving in. Danny, though, has tagged him for the hunted passive, but he's a little too tanky. POL, same sort of story as they try and get it, but only the 2 kills for Vici.
Godv is the first one to die. If you go for this mana build, you don't have the stasis from Zhonya. If you're appropriately focused, you will be taken down, and Imp was not grouped for that fight, so the only priority target to take out was the Cassidy, and died first. Vici collapse onto this Baron. I don't really know how LGD are going to contest it.
And I'm loving the Maokai Cho'Gath from LGD, honestly. It's just, again, a train of CC coming through. Baron will go over there to Vici as well. So very few dragons in what's been quite a long game. 36 minutes we're approaching here in this one. A bevy of kills, but Vici a massive lead, and now Baron looking to close things out.
And we're finally able to confirm for your stream, no, we can read, we can look. It is actually the Magus enchant, but it's a Skirmish's Magus enchant. A very strange enchant, but just given the popularity of Skirmish's Saber, it gives a bit of 1v1 dueling, because of course you do extra true damage on autos, plenty of autos coming out with the Primal Surge. You of course reduce the enemy damage by 20% and the reveal. So again, it's more utility focused than we expect coming through from the enchant choice, but it's still the Magus. It's still 80 AP and 20% CDO.
I mean, Saber's seen, I think, a slight resurgence in popularity just because with Chilling Smite getting nerfed, it seems quite strong. Second Dragon goes over to Vici. No, LGD snuck that one away. I thought so. And now even they're 2 for 2. So again, doing a good job of sneaking away certain objectives. Vici's Dragon control been surprisingly poor this game, I have to say. But given all the fighting that's been happening, can't really blame them too much.
And although it feels like Vici have run over this lineup from LGD. Remember, Ash has 342 CS. The only person in this game over 300 has 4 AD items and wasn't grouped for the previous fight. There's only a 7,000 gold lead at 37 minutes. The base is broken, but the inhibitor is still available. There's still room for LGD to win a fight and start to wrestle control with an Ash and a Cassidy, two very strong late game
They're going to need a
champions.
big ulti though coming through. There's actually one onto Tong. Akon going to flash in there, finds a Tong there, channeling it up at Mata, zoning them off with his slicing Maelstrom as TBQ taking up good damage. Mata goes down there, but the feast comes through and Akon will be the next to fall. Godby looking to go down next as him, going to get flashed on and almost dies to a Vasily Q. Godby pops his Archangels there just to live for a bit longer, and a 1-4 on trade, but Vici taken in here.
When fighting in the bench formation, even as a 500 range AD carry, that auto attack reset means that Sivir is doing huge team fight damage. With the re-engage though,
Got to jump in onto Vasily, but can't quite get him. And there's just too much protection here. Cho'Gath, we've talked about it, might be a bit of a weird mid laner. Does decent damage, especially in close range, but is best when protecting another carry.
And Sivir in general is diving into these fights, fighting with the melee champions, getting auto attacks onto priority targets, skipping the tanks where possible, whereas Ashe has been wholly at the back, auto-attacking the very tanky Maokai, not doing relevant damage to the front line. That's the big difference, is that Vici's comp can dive in aggressively, and Ashe can keep kiting back, but at some point she's going to be kiting back to a spawn fountain.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, Vasily, the Lucian Graves only player for a short number of weeks, playing Sivir a lot like Graves.
Absolutely, getting in there and doing melee range damage, but in this case, how do you punish it when Cho'Gath, Maokai, so much disengaged CC? Hell, Mud is doing plenty of CC when the Slicing Maelstrom is available as well. Vici continue to push. They want this bottom inhibitor, and they're going to take it down.
Yeah, going to take the second here. LGD just can't defend. Akon going to running with some poke, but too many tanky members here on the front line. And again, how are they going to get there? As they're going to move Mata back in. Akon actually going to stop him there with the ultimate. A Tong right on top of him. Just going to get the kill there. Godby diving in the back, trying to poke away Vasily. Will dodge the next hook. Dandy going to get low. Godby maybe can do it. Going massive there with the Riftwalks, hopping so many times. PWL will actually get another kill. TBQ locking them up, gets the kill onto Dandy. Akon still fighting in as well. LGD might have somehow turned it around. Her Tong looking to go down after his Zhonya's does fall to Akon, and carry will go down as well. A completed ace by LGD.
Very long fight. Crucially, Vasily fell, and that actually took down a lot of the damage coming through from Vici Gaming. The only consistent damage dealer is Vasily, because again, the one downfall of Cho'Gath is if those skill shots are dodged, when those long cooldowns are being waited upon, doesn't offer much to a fight. Only those Vorpal spikes just striking low damage during a fight. So the tanky members brought it back, and this is with Imp and Golfby dead. So we're going to restart the fight. Golfby's alive and doing so much consistent damage. He's the one to watch because the zoning ultimate catches 4 people. The damage registers on Vasily. Very poor use of the spell shield means that he takes the damage, and Golfby gets the assassination onto Sivir. That's the big factor. Sivir is dead, and you can watch Cho'Gath walking around, not really contributing very much. Despite the fact that there's only minimal damage left on LGD, it's enough to take down these tanky members of Vici, and there's the lifeline coming through from LGD. With the right target selection, they are actually able to fight very competitively.
And again, from what we've seen a lot from LGD, Akon with a high impact ultimate in their mid laner cleaning house. Even with him just getting assassinated there at the start of that fight, LGD are able to pull it out, and you can see that late game scaling, that Cassidy, who's now got 4 items, that Void stuff being completed now as well. He's a big threat here. I wonder what his last item's going to be. Godvy's the type of player that would maybe scream at Rabadons, but I think Zhonya's might be the better choice.
I mean, target selection, I said a couple of times, that is going to be critical for both teams in general. Remember, Wayless, he hasn't gone for stasis whatsoever, doesn't have a death cap or a Zhonya's complete, so it's not the sheer AP stack or necessarily the Zhonya's for stasis. He's going to need to dodge in and out, weave in and out with that Riftwalk on such a low cooldown. If you get the right timing on the Feral Scream in particular, there's no Merc Treads coming through. That's 2.5 seconds of silence. That's longer than the cooldown of the Riftwalk. You can potentially take him down. That will take away a lot of the threat onto Vasily. He's the only one who can kind of skip around threats and do damage to the backline. Whereas on the other side, it's all about diving Imp. He hasn't gone for the QSS. He's actually gone for the later power spike in the Banshee Veil. That will be good for him when it's completed, but at this point, that Spectre's Cowl, it could basically have been a QSS. So they need to kind of wait for Ashe in particular to pick up the extra 1250 gold, I believe, to finish that Banshee Veil before they look for this next fight, LGD.
Akon now going to try and clear out some waves. Galio, decent wave clear, actually has a Void Staff now as well, so a very mixed build here for Akon, but again, relatively tanky just from base stats and his shield alone, and doing decent damage right now. TBQ actually popped his ultimate looking for an initiation, but with that inhibitor still down, in fact, 2 inhibitors down here with lanes of super minions pushing in. LGD have to back off to defend. Carry eats a couple of bowlers, but super tanky now at this stage of the game.
Just waiting for the go button from LGD. Realistically, they have to look and try and keep up this last outer structure, this last inhibitor turret. Otherwise, it's so hard to come back when your base is completely in shambles. Plenty of wave clear at this point between the very short cooldown volley and the static shiv procs coming through from the Ashe. Again, waiting on the Banshee Veil, going back to base. You have to assume has the gold now for the Banshee Veil. Could be relatively safe in a fight, so now we wait for the gold button, the go button. We wait for the Enchanted Crystal Arrow.
Yep, Ashe 6 slotted now, does have the Banshee Veil just picked up, like you said, went back to pick it up from the shop, and LGD still trying to move out. Again, the wave clear coming through. Marta actually gets hit by a stray hook, but he flashes straight in there. The Banshee's helping out, but Marta's got a Zonya's Akon zoning out with his ulti as well. He is going to go down just at the edge, but his Zonya's just to buy a little bit more time. Imp doing good damage to Dandy, who's dived in to try and take him out, and Godby ripping through people in the back, takes out Vasily, will die as a result, but there's Imp now on cleanup duty, and PYL going to run in. Dandy will hop away, but another one fight for LGD.
And the late game scaling, it's actually coming through. We never thought we'd hit that point, but hopping around, Wayless doing so much damage on this Kassadin. And that situation, it was just a poor engage from Mata, completely separated from his team, flashing over a wall onto the Banshee Veil. Maybe he didn't notice that the Banshee Veil was completed. You'd have to assume from the way he went in so aggressively and split from his team. Hilarious chase coming through, the Yakety Sax playing in the background. Carry's pretty tanky, guys.
Yeah, he's all that hook. Good work from POL. Carry will still take a while to die. Pops his ultimate here, and we could see this last quite a while. This is the joy of 5.6 tanks. Carry, though, might... No, they actually give it up. It's too hard. I
mean, they did need a skirmisher Saber at that point to be available. He actually has the Ranger's Trailblazer. Only the true damage coming out. Level 18, of course, about 480 true damage might have been relevant, but far too tanky Carry. With now the Thornmail being completed. Imp, you can see that late game Ashe, it's finally relevant. It takes a long damn time. Level 1 to level 18 seems to be the power spikes for Ashe, but well, I mean level 1 and level 18, not level 1 to level 18.
No, that'd be quite a good champion. Probably see a lot more Ashe as a result, but Imp wants to play his Ashe game today, looking strong now in the later stages despite the score.
Tanky Scuttlecrab.
Have to credit, yeah, he's really tanky at this point. We're 44 minutes into the game, and Imp has got 428 CS. So again, Carry gonna come in trying to flank to this Ashe. Imp though with the Banshees, TBQ gonna run up and protect him. PWL's got the Lancer, but that's for TBQ at this point. We'll take it and get away. An initiation misfire by Vici.
Absolutely, they actually used the on the hump, but they're gonna rotate down to Baron. It's gonna be a fast Baron with Sivir being able to cancel autos, but they're waiting. They have a lot of check. I'm not sure if the Hawkshot is available. No, it's still about 10 seconds off cooldown, so they'll just need to buy time with some wave clear from Akon and mid. Yeah, that's one thing Galio can do.
Yeah, he's actually been doing a good job keeping them off the last inhibitor turret as well. LGD's inhibitors have also respawned, so that's not looking too bad as well. There were wards in the area for LGD. They've got the Baron warded, so Vici didn't feel confident taking it, especially with Akon's teleport. And we'll reset once again, and this time it's for a Dragon. Vici grabbed their third.
And that poor Dragon control is actually coming back to haunt Vici. Only their third Dragon means that we're talking about a 57-minute potential if it's rushed down on spawn. Fifth Dragon, again, buying time for all these 6 items to come through. We're waiting to see what Godby completes as his last AP item. Has the needlessly large rod. Will it just be damage? At this point, he's been so good at navigating team fights. Maybe that's the correct choice. Or will it be the Zonius to be even more of a backline diver than he already has been with the 1 second cooldown on the Riftwalk, it feels like at this point?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell when Godby's able to be free in these team fights on Kassadin, Riftwalk is just constant almost as far as its usage in a fight goes. So he's doing ridiculous damage at this point. We'll get the blue buff. Very important that Kassadin can maintain that blue just for even more damage. I mean, he doesn't need the CDR at this point, but just happy to have so much more mana regen. And LGD, with a bit of a mis-rotate by Vici, going to move in onto the Baron. There is a ward in the back. They spotted it, but don't clear it. No teleport up for Carry, though. No one here. LGD are going to get the Baron.
But the pings are on the base. Will they get 2 inhibitors at minimum? Yes, it looks like they will. They Baroned up empowered recalls. They're fast, but will they be fast enough?
Akon now actually teleporting in. He needs to get in quicker. The rest of the team running in. TBQ diving straight onto the back, and they're going so deep for Vasily, but Marta peels back. but Godby just takes him out on the Cassidy. Still alive there as well. Mata using his Zonies back in the base, though Imp trying to force off Carry, and there's 3 members peeling. Ash does enough damage. Carry massively tanky, but Hetong's already turned tail. He's too low to defend. That's 2 free kills there for LGD. Gonna dive back in. Dandy has to be careful. Cassidy will run you down, and Mata doing so much. Imp steals that one away.
This is the only time I've ever seen triple mana items work on a champion outside of Rise with all this mana scaling. But it's a genius build with the bust coming through from Athenes, because at this point, the Riftwalk, you're just stacking up the damage, doing massive damage to the backline. Basically popped Vasily like he's nothing, despite having the magic resist from the Mercurial Scimitar. With these long death timers, they should break the base at minimum.
Yeah, tier 2 going to go down. Akon and POL quite tanky. POL actually has a frozen heart in his build, so going to be able to move in. Hetong will actually get grabbed up. POL getting low as a result, though. Imp turns on him for some damage, but they need the turret down. Acorn, though, doing work there. Baroned up minions helping out as well. Base is broken. Mid and hit will fall. 20 seconds left.
They're thinking about the finish here, Pastry Time.
They're going to go in. It seems like Akon will tank it up. TBQ will help as well. Big frontline is here for LGD. First Nexus turret goes down. Imp going to start working on the next one. Godly turning everybody out. Dandy will pop his on. He jumps in aggressive. Atongla tries to feast on, but the surrender comes through. And LGD somehow win that game.
LGD pulled it out so long with Ash and Cassidy as their 2 main carries. Vici, for once, their strategy let them down. Their rotations were poor. Their dragon control was abysmal. And you can see the look on Dandy's face. It looked like troll picks when Galio, the new rework Cassidy for the first time in the LPL, and Ash were locked in, but Vici couldn't play around the super late game power spikes, level 18 power spikes it felt like, and LGD win.
I mean, purpose with it, that cast was fat. The cast was absolutely fat there in that game. And Wayless did it. I mean, took a while, took a long time actually for Ash and Cassidy to make it work, but again, you get to the late game scaling. 5.6 has been all about these scaling champions. Didn't think I'd be saying that about Ash Cassidy today, but that's what we have here in Game 1.
Cassidy was insane. He was hopping around like he was playing a game of leapfrog with his mates all around the backline. Nothing Vasily can do on Sivir. Only 1 spell shield available and the QSS from the Mercurial Scimitar. No effect against a Cassidy with a 1.2 second Riftwalk.
Well, we have 1 more game left to play this evening, and who knows what we're going to see. The LPL has been absolutely awesome here in Week 10, and its last game is coming right up.